Good evening, and again, welcome to the Call to Action, a virtual town hall meeting for the city of Paterson. I am Pastor Weldon McWilliams, the pastor of the Christ Temple Baptist Church, where this town hall is being hosted. Christ Temple Baptist Church has been serving the city of Paterson for the past 69 years, and we thank you for making us a part of this much anticipated forum. Now I'd like to introduce to you all tonight the moderator for tonight's forum, New Jersey's General Assembly, Deputy Speaker of the Legislative District 35, Assemblyman Benjie Wimberly. Let's give him a hand clap at this time.
Thank you, Pastor McWilliams. And where did we start and where we come from? May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was senselessly killed. And we want to make sure that this situation, an unfortunate situation, is just not a moment, but it's a movement. We want to make sure as an African-American community that we come together with an agenda that addresses the many issues from healthcare to housing, to education, to job opportunities in our community. And we want to make sure that these are the things, along with public safety, that we have a plan for and that are addressed to elected officials such as myself and to the leadership of our police department in the first segment. We also understand that there are many senseless murders, not just here in Paterson, but throughout the United States. So we want to make sure that these opportunities for our young people do not go. We want to make sure they have an opportunity to choose hope over despair. We never want to forget Genesis Rincon. We never want to forget Nasray Bug. We never want to forget Armani Saxton or any other people who have lost their life senselessly to gun violence. But at this time, we want to focus in on issues that we need to address as a community and make sure that we have a plan and a clear agenda. So I don't know if people understand, after 3.5 months of being shut in, the impact that so many of our children have had emotionally, being maybe verbally, sexually abused, neglected, malnourished. These are important things that we need to talk about when we talk about our entire community. So let's keep that in mind when we talk about returning to school, returning to normal. Normal's not normal, but a kid to get to school for 6-7 hours is probably a relief for many of them. We are a high dense community. People don't understand about 2 bedrooms for 8 people. People don't understand that. We're a different type of situation. So that's important. Now, a question is for the superintendent, but anybody I think can answer this. The importance of community service and being implemented not just in the school district, but the churches, the fraternal sororities, the different organizations in our community. How important is community service for the betterment of the city of Paterson?
It's very important, and we have many of our high school students participating in community service. We have partnerships with the fraternities, with the sororities, coming in, providing mentoring services. We have students going out, helping the senior citizens, working with community agencies, Oasis, and others, Eva's Kitchen. So there's a lot of community service going on, and we have been looking at putting it as a graduation requirement, a certain amount of hours that a high school student would need to complete as part of their graduation.
All right, thank you. You know what, Pastor, can you just, community service in the church, can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. I think community service or just servicing the community, both are important. As often as we can, churches, and I'll speak here for Christ, we want to always be able to ensure that we have a relationship with those in the surrounding community. We want to be able to invite them out, let them know that they're welcome, not to just worship with us, but welcome. We'll have programs and different things, establish relationships. The mentorship aspect is also important. We have men and women that are professionals in our church, making sure that they reach out to those not only in the community, but the youth in our church. When I hear community and think of church, I almost look at it synonymously, because the church, people who make up the church, are the community. So there's a lot of things that can happen within the church and the community simultaneously, and trying as best as we can to make sure we all listen to one another and each other. So there's so much work that can be done, and I know one of the things that I, as pastor and the leadership of here at Christ Temple, is we always want to make sure that we are listening to the community and we can be accessible to the community and actually work together in trying to address some of the ills and just the different issues that affect our particular community.
All right. This is for Pastor Clayton, your NAACP hat. What are some of the initiatives the chapter is working on with the unrest in the city now?
Okay, the branch, unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we have not met since March. Our last general membership meeting was in March. We, prior to that, we meet every last Thursday of the month. The branch works through a variety of committees, and Dalton and Shavonda join me, they're both vice president, but they variety of committees that address different areas. In terms of unrest, we have been, for the last 6 months to a year, we've been working with Casey Melvin and Rashad Dixon and their initiative. We have brought churches together, local churches together, and actually providing them resources to help them open up their office and provide a partnership. So particularly with that particular item, we've been working with them for the last year.
Thank you.
We are meeting again in July, and that meeting will be publicized within the next week or so. And we hope that people could be a virtual meeting. Hope you be a part of that meeting and just help us do what we need to do to make our city better.
Can you give information if anybody just want anything as far as NAACP online or?
NAACP has a Facebook page that is very, very active. Our Facebook page is active. We have a website, and I don't remember the website right now, so excuse me, it's late, it's past my bedtime. But in terms of social media stuff, we're out there on a regular basis. Shavonda Sumter is the chair of the youth council, and again, prior to COVID-19 happening, she's been every month with the youth of our city, trying to prepare them to become leaders and moving the shakers in our city. So we invite all of you who have interest. You can reach me at 973-345-4309 throughout the week. You can check out our Facebook page and our website as well.
And my next question is a general leadership question. It really would have been good for the mayor. For the companies and the developers coming into the city of Paterson, does anybody have a plan as far as, hiring our local people to work on many projects? As you see a lot of shovels in the ground here in the city, a lot of things going. Any ideas, any suggestions that you would like to give the mayor if the mayor is still out here listening? Lieutenant?
If I can. I can't spend the mayor's money and tell him how to spend it. What I can say, common sense says, what you want from people, you ask for people. And you tell them, if you want to do business in the city of Paterson, this is what you have to do. And you make it a document. You want to come into Paterson to build, you have to hire this percentage of Pattersonians, this percentage of black and brown people. These are the things you have to do. You have to invest a certain percentage into recreation. There's nothing wrong with saying those words to people who are going to come into your city and make millions and millions of dollars. Don't be afraid to tell people. They come to your office to ask you to come to your city. This is the deal. You come to our city, you're going to build a recreation center inside of your building. A certain amount of apartments, we need a recreation center for the kids inside of your building. You have to invest in our recreation department for the city. You have to hire a certain amount of people when you build. A certain amount of people in your building have to be of a certain race and creed and from the city. Those are things that the city or anyone could demand when someone is asking you, can I come into your city and make $100 million? You have some rights, you have to exercise it.
And also in addition to that, we also have to make sure we have people ready for those jobs. If we demand that they have whatever the percentage of number of people who are whatever of certain race or city residents, they have to be credentialized and ready to do the job.
And to that point, Reverend Clayton, and to the superintendent, we worked hard, the Assemblyman and I, to make sure that we had development coming to our city. We have a number of opportunity zones designated, which is a federal initiative with U.S. Senator Cory Booker. We just had a second round of CARES Act monies hit the business community. The first round, only 1% of women and minority businesses were able to tap into. This second round, because the Assemblyman and I were very aggressive in making sure that business owners in the city of Paterson was aware that these monies were available. When we have developers, including the Hinchcliffe Stadium project, we need to make sure that they're picking up our young people who've been trained, who's 18 and older, have a good driver history, and know a little bit about math and construction that they can learn on these sites. We work with the building and trades industry to talk with our school district to make sure that they're partnering with our students early so that they can get these jobs as well, to Reverend Clayton's point. It's important that we all elevate it, and I don't want to just put it on the mayor, Assemblyman, because too many times we think it's just the mayor. We also have to hold our city council accountable to make sure that they make these asks when they're grilling someone about the plans and business development initiatives for our community.
Yeah, I was just
And you know what? We're at that time again, so we don't need some questions, and the battery is running low again. And once again, we thank our viewing audience for being so patient with us with our technical difficulties. My next question, and Assemblywoman, I know you know the answers, but I want to go to Zellie Thomas. What are your social justice legislative recommendations that you would make, or that you'd like to share with our viewing audience?
Sure. There's a lot of recommendations that I would definitely want to share with the viewing audience. This weekend, we're going to release Black Lives Matter Paterson, our policy recommendations. It's called 6 Steps to a Safer City. Each bucket of 6 buckets has policy recommendations for the city of Paterson and our state legislation to implement in order to create safer cities. But some of those things we've been talking about is like defunding the police and what that literally looks like. What are the steps of defunding the police? What are the steps to removing police from schools? What are the steps to making safe and accessible and affordable housing? And what are some of the steps to divest from cops and invest in what we call care? But one of the other things I definitely want to put on the floor right now is that we need to be able to rally behind legislation that will ban chokeholds statewide. I know, is that on the floor already, or is it on preparation stages? But we all need to be able to rally behind that because it's not illegal at this point in time, and we need to make sure that it is illegal and on the books, so just in case it does happen someplace in New Jersey, that those officers can be held accountable. There's a lot of things going on in New Jersey right now, whether it's the Civilian Complaint Review Board, whether the Attorney General was trying to have the past incidences of cops released, that a lot of these things that are actually going to make communities safer, create some more transparency and accountability, is actually being tied up by police officers, by their unions. So at one point you hear a lot of police officers saying they want accountability, they're for transparency, but on the flip side, their unions are in the court ensuring that this transparency and accountability doesn't happen. So we're trying to fight to ensure that we have a strong Civilian Complaint Review Board with subpoena power, and it needs to be implemented here in Paterson. And we're already seeing that Orange is already putting it on the table. So we ask again, why not here in Paterson?
All right, and would anybody like to chime in as far as social justice legislation?
I definitely want to again reiterate the need for a universal basic income. I think the Assemblywoman made some great points. There's a lot of things that before COVID-19, our governments, state, local, and federal, act like it was too hard to do. But when we got into the pandemic, we saw that, you know, for whatever reason, things were able to get done. We need to really look into a universal basic income, living wage, making things like the internet a utility, making some of these things available to all. We need to really begin to ask ourselves on a constant basis, what are we doing for those who are perceived as the least of these? So,
thank you, Lieutenant Price.
I work with you and the Assemblywoman on trying to get this chokehold legislation written, but I know, and she knows, and you know, that when you write these things with loopholes, they don't work. So you have to make sure that they are written correctly. At the same time, you are training and paying men and women to go out and save the city. And sometimes in these incidences, you have what's called a fight. And that fight becomes violent. And to put the restraint on someone to say, you're involved in a fight, this person can do whatever they want to you, but here's what you cannot do. Whatever happens, you cannot slam them to the ground. If you do, you're gonna lose your job. You cannot put them in a chokehold. And most men in this room, whatever age, if we've ever been in a fight or a wrestling match, a headlock is something that has been done. There has to be restrictions on the headlock. There has to be restrictions on the chokehold. There has to be restrictions, or not just restrictions. You can't put your knee on somebody's neck, especially for a certain amount of time. There has to be restrictions. But when you talk about eliminating these things from the use of force, this is where the union steps in, and this is where the union wins, because you cannot say, we're not gonna put a person in a chokehold. It's illegal in the most violent situation. Moving it up the ladder like the Assemblywoman did to, in the use of force continuum, as deadly force, now we can talk about that. But talking about eliminating it is not reality. We want reform justice. We have to talk about bills that we can get passed and bills that can be enforced. It's very important that we do it the right way.
So Assemblyman,
Yes, so
Yeah.
Assemblywoman, I know, we're gonna get through a couple more questions, but I just want you to share when you introduced the initial chokehold bill.
So in 2015, after the Eric Garner case, I introduced the chokehold bill with Senator Shirley Turner in the Senate. That bill did not pass. Chris Christie was governor at that time. I subsequently introduced it June 15th of this year, and Lieutenant Price is right. I did check in with him. I checked in with all of the PBAs. I checked in with our social justice activists. And we actually got a bill through that defined the chokehold as a use of force. In New Jersey, our police are not trained to use chokeholds. It's not part of their policing tactic. I checked with the prosecutors of the state of New Jersey. The number of deaths from use of force has not been, in any of the cases, from a chokehold, with the weapon, with the vehicle, but not a chokehold. New Jersey is not without its sins. It's important that we get it on the books, and it's important that we work through the challenges that we have in New Jersey with over-policing. We're also, as a Legislative Black Caucus, looking at the use of force in totality to make sure that we're addressing all elements of use of force and make sure that we're responsible for, one, getting our men and women who are in law enforcement home safely, but also making sure that the citizens walk away and can deal with the next day whatever the challenges that they have with law enforcement. So we're being very responsive and judicious about it. It's a battle. We got it through the Assembly. It's not posted yet in the Senate. So there's more work to be done, and we really need our partners and our advocates to work with us to make sure we get it done. The other piece the Assemblyman's been great on is making sure there's no false reporting, is making sure we do some decriminalization of marijuana laws, so you're not having these mishaps and interactions that are contentious with law enforcement. So we really want to reduce that level of engagement, and we're being very thoughtful and methodical to address New Jersey's issues very specifically while responding to the civil unrest nationally.
Rev?
Yeah, I just also want to say, I think one of the most impressive things about community organizers is we try to imagine a society as it should be, right? So for me, I still community organize. I try to imagine a society without prisons. I try to imagine a society without the need for police and use that as a means to move forward. I don't think that under any conditions, under any circumstance, can we accept a chokehold in any way. I know that there's some intricate parts as it gets to the policy, but our mindset as a community, as activists, as politicians, has to be under no circumstances can we allow or make room for chokeholds. And I appreciate Assemblywoman and the work that she's done, Assemblyman and the work that you're doing. Decriminalizing marijuana. We know that black men, black women have gone to jail for this, but now when we see it becoming more legalized, white men are making all the profits. We have to figure out a way to shift that narrative. Also, at the same time, again, I just think it's very important that we try to imagine a society as it should be. And if that's our motivation, we don't look for reasons why a chokehold has to be accepted. We have to move on the premise that under no circumstances can this be acceptable.
Thank you. And as we